Hello friends, welcome to my channel. I hope that you're having a great day today. In today's video, we are going to be discussing Super Mario Sunshine Jump Chain by PsychoAnon, which is a jump chain based off of the game of the same name. I am currently experimenting with trying to see how I can concisely cover jump chains of a certain length. This is one of my favorite jump chains, and it's worth noting that I have actually covered jump chains similar to this in the context of my jumper, Luciano the Jumper, who is the main subject of numerous other videos in the jump chain playlist over on my channel. That said, we're going to be diving right into this, so let's go ahead and get started. As you can see, here is the cover blurb, and here's the introduction. After that, we are going to be getting 1000 shine sprites, or shine points, and we are going to be diving right into the origin section. This particular jump does not have a generics / general / undiscounted section, so it is definitely going to be important to understand each of the origins. In case it is not obvious, the tourist is the origin for Mario, Peach, and the Toads, as well as any other visitors who decide to try and pay Isle Delfino a visit at this particular point in time. The native origin is for people like the Nokis or the Piñatas, and also the invader origin is for the Koopas and for the other creatures that have come here from faraway lands seeking to cause mischief and mayhem rather than just enjoy the sun and sunshine. So, we are going to be hopping right over to the perks section for the tourists, and as you can see, the first origin is just you can do what Mario does. The first perk is just a you can do what Mario does perk. The second perk is a determination perk, as well as a perk that makes it easier for you to find satisfaction in doing jobs. The third perk is a lot more decidedly a determination perk. This is also the first perk that would cost points if you took the tourist origin. This is something that is very useful for if you want to creatively figure out ways to get around your environment. It is something that is incredibly handy if you are either inserting yourself as Mario or as Peach or as one of the Toads and determined to play out the story of the game, or if you're just a friend of them and you want to play out the story of the game from the side of the heroes. Errand Boy is a you do nice things and you get rewards perk. It is very handy, and it's also one of the perks that is somewhat common in Mario Origins and Mario video games. Just a very handy thing for people to have, especially if you either want to be a nice guy or you want to become a nice guy over time. Just very handy. The first 400 shine points perk is something that makes it so that if you are kidnapped, friends will start to come along trying to help you out, and possibly new people as well. And the second 400 point perk is one of the first more original perks in this particular jump if you have played the Super Mario 64 jump, which was something that I've done in the past and is something that I highly recommend. It is a fantastic beginner, if not first jump. And with this particular perk, you actually become an attorney and you are legally certified, which is just incredibly handy. This means that after 10 years of vacationing in Isle Delfino and very possibly the Mushroom Kingdom after the events of the game play out and you're still here for another probably 9.5 at the very shortest, if not 9 years and 11 months, that you are going to be stuck in the setting unless you have another drawback or perk that allows you to peace out early. You are going to be able to go to your next world as a legally certified attorney. That's just a very cool thing to be able to have. The very first capstone perk for this particular origin is one that makes it easier for you to do stuff without tools, including some things that you would normally need tools to do. This is just a very good quality of life perk. It's very nice for you to be able to have if you're going to be going to another tool heavy setting such as Minecraft after this. just an all-around fun thing for you to have. Community service is a perk that makes it so that justice tends to be a lot more restorative towards you. There are limits to this, but this is in effect a perk that guarantees that so long as you are a decent person trying your best to do decent things, even if you get caught up in something, justice will not necessarily tear you a new one. Even in corrupt places, you will often have a chance to be able to pay back your debts to society in different and more helpful ways than the way you might be expecting to, or than the worst case scenario. Just an all-around good thing to be able to have in your repertoire. The very next origin is the native origin, and we are going to be taking a look at it right now. Right, moving right along to the native origin, the first perk in it is called the Barker perk, and this makes you an excellent businessman capable of selling all sorts of things, and you could also be a very skilled manager of a business such as a hotel, but the perk asks, where's the fun in that? And you know, in the context of Super Mario Sunshine, not Super Mario 64, that is a difficult thing to argue with. It does look like the people who are just selling stuff and just vibing in Super Mario Sunshine are having a lot more fun than the hotel manager and the the amusement park manager, both of whom seem to be a little bit stressed out by their jobs. Although I do think that the person who runs the amusement park has a little bit more fun. He certainly seems to be getting into some of Mario's shenanigans and is very curious about the strange going-ons that seem to occur around the plumber. That said, the very next one is a very famous perk. Not a very famous perk itself, but it's a reference to a very famous line from Super Mario 64, talking about being a chuckster. Chucksters are lads and ladies who will toss you very far once you interact with them, and in some cases, once you pay them a coin. There's actually a very infamous level in the Piñata Village that you have to go to that is one of the weird liminal space levels where Mario does not have his flood as a tool to help him out, where you have to figure out the right ways to get chucked by the right chucksters in order to navigate the level, and if you fail, you either die or you take some damage. At the very least, your pride takes some damage. And with this particular perk, you have the ability to toss grown men heights and distances that would make Mario's natural jumps look a little bit weak, you know? And thankfully, you're also accurate with your tossing, which is very important, and your throws are actually relatively safe, so that is something that's very good if you just want to help people traverse the land rather than actually actively hurting people. The very next perk is a perk that makes it so that you're more skilled getting people to help you out and or do your bidding, depending on how manipulative you want to be with this. Just a very good perk for interacting with people if you also happen to be not the nicest person in the world. And the very next perk, these perks, by the way, are also the first perks that will actually cost points, assuming you took the native origin as your origin. Is a perk that makes it so that people will have to accept the laws of the land that you live in. This is especially important for if you want to rope in foreigners into your shenanigans, and or if you are the monarch or leader of a region and you decide the laws and thus can figure out how corrupt they're going to be. Just a very handy thing for if you want to mess with people and if you want people to accept the laws of your land, which is very good for people who are monarch type jumpers or who want to like acquire land and rule over it. The next perk is called Shine Gets. This particular perk is very handy. It's something that makes it so that nobody seems to mind you possessing illegal goods and even trading them. It's worth noting that the act of owning and possessing Shine Sprites, I don't believe is ever said to be explicitly illegal in Isle Delfino, but it certainly seems weird that there is a place that holds, I believe, 24 of them, and given the current crisis that plagues Isle Delfino at the start of the jump and at the start of the story of the game, you would think that that would be something that's like a little weird and a little looked down upon. Secret Stash makes it so that you know a very complex method of security. You can hide things in strange places that can only be accessed by strange means of your own design. This is a perk that allows you to do stuff like hide blue coins in what is basically graffiti, as well as in other strange places. Just a very handy thing to be able to have. The first of the capstone perks makes it so that you are one of the unique creatures that inhabits Isle Delfino. PD Piranha, I don't know if PD Piranha is ever stated to be a native, but I do believe that Elimouth is stated to be a native. I'm pretty sure that Glooper Blooper is not a native, and that the giant chain chomps of Piñata Village probably are natives, but I'm not entirely sure. The legendary sandbird is very decidedly a native creature, and I think that that is very interesting, just for a number of reasons from a physiological standpoint. The idea that a bird made of sand is capable of doing all the things that that bird is capable of doing kind of blows my mind. But this makes it so that you have a set of unique powers, a potentially tremendously powerful alt form that you can shapeshift into, and also just makes it so that you're able to vibe on Isle Delfino a lot easier because people respect that you are basically a walking force of nature. Now, the final capstone perk is a Shine Sprite perk that makes it so that you can more easily form relationships with nature spirits such as the Shine Sprites, and also so that you know how to harness monuments, you know how to create monuments that make it so that you are able to do things like harness the power of the spirits that you are homies with. I think that that is really rad. Sorry if you just saw a battery settings thing. I had to check something on my computer to make sure that it doesn't die. I think that this is a very cool perk. It's something that is a lot of fun depending on if you either have perks that make it so that nature spirits decidedly exist in the settings you go to no matter what, or if you happen to be going to settings where spirits have a lot of power and are demonstrably real and are capable of being interacted with. Either way, very cool perk, something that I absolutely love to see. And now we're going to be moving on to the final origin in this particular jump, the Invader origin. Moving right along over into the Invader origin, the very first perk, and one of the two free perks if you take this origin as your origin, is Copycat. And with this particular one, you are especially good at copying others. And this is a fantastic perk if you want to be a rogue or just a trickster type character. It is worth noting that this does not actually give you skills in making disguises, but there's a number of perks that you can get from other origins that do things like give you the ability to shapeshift or otherwise give you the ability to make disguises that are fantastic for covering up this aspect of it. That said, great first perk. The very next one is Graffiti Artist. With Graffiti Artist, you are quite talented at painting and painting quickly, and it's worth noting that the time that you take to create your little masterpieces do affect their quality. If you only have a few seconds to sketch something, it will not look as good as if you had a few minutes or a few hours to do it. That said, this is still a fantastic perk for being quick on your feet and for doing things very fast. I definitely think that there's a lot of potential for this one if you are someone who just engages in some good old street art and you're someone who enjoys that sort of thing. The very first perk that is actually going to cost points, even if you took the Invader as your origin, is going to be Dramatic Entrance, and this is a very fun one. This is something that makes it so that you always know the best way to make an entrance and the best way to leave an impression, and also gives you the ability to slightly ignore the laws of physics if it's done solely for the purpose of looking cool, which is very fun. If you want to just look like a badass, you definitely can hover over water. You could do things like slowly glide to the ground, so long as doing so does not have a meaningful effect, but just serves the purpose of helping you leave a better impression. Runaway Guy is the very next perk in this particular origin, and it says that if you go around committing crimes, you're likely going to be chased by some goody two-shoes looking to put you away. And this makes it so that you are just faster, so that you would have to be being pursued by some kind of super athlete, and also makes it so that you're quick on your feet mentally as well, meaning that you can more easily trip and trick your enemies, giving you chances to escape. Basically, you are a difficult person to pin down, and that is something that you are going to use to your advantage. You're also difficult to pin down mentally, which is an important part of being able to make a safe getaway after committing the sorts of crimes that the invaders get up to. The very first 400 points perk in this particular origin is called Yoink, and it makes it so that you are better at taking things from other people. This is basically a sleight of hands perk that is very fun to use in a wide range of contexts. I personally think that this could be potentially a really good perk depending on a situation you find yourself in. If you are unarmed and you find yourself being chased by armed foes and you have the opportunity to get the drop on them somehow, such as if you shake them but you manage to come across them and decide to confront them, you are able to take away their weapon, potentially, depending on how good and how fast you are, and this makes that a lot easier. Just a very good thing to have. The very next perk is called Tiny Trickster, and with Tiny Trickster, you are a master of deception. You're able to trap and trick your enemies in all sorts of ways, and that is a very fun ability to have. Again, this is a very rogue-focused origin, and if that is not your particular playstyle, that's probably not the way that you want to do this. This is probably not the origin for you unless you want something like one of the big capstones. The the daddy perk, which is a great name for this, is that makes it so that you're a big and beefy example of a member of your kind. If you were a Koopa, for example, you would be the biggest Koopa in the world except for Bowser, and you have the ability to multiply your size many times to what it normally compared to what it normally is. This is a very fun thing to have. This is basically a perk that makes it so that you are a badass member of your species. Just a very good perk to have if you like fighting and if you are in fact a physical bruiser type. The final capstone perk in this particular origin is the Secret Area perk, which makes it so that you have the ability to create the sorts of strange void spaces where Bowser Jr. would steal Mario's FLUDD and would force him to run around and do parkour on his own 2 feet without his mechanical helper along the way to make sure that any mistakes are quickly corrected. This is a very fun thing to have, but it's worth noting that you cannot create a space that is just guaranteed to unalive someone. You do have to create a space where there is a possibility for them to succeed, which I think is kind of a frustrating limitation, but I understand why someone would want this, because I think that if that limitation did not exist, this would be worth a lot more than it already is. That said, solid capstone. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the items. There are only going to be one item per point interval in this particular jump, so it's going to be a little bit faster. The tourist, the first item is Delfino's threads. These are not super powerful items, but these will help protect you from the sun and from the heat, and they just make you look cooler, at least the native folks. The very next one is Pretty Pink Parasol, which is a waterproof umbrella and also any liquid proof. That said, it also has the ability to slow your descents, allowing you to gently float down from great heights, just like Peach could in both Super Mario Sunshine and also Super Mario, the Smash Brothers series, where the parasail is her recovery ability. It's her recovery special attack. The very next item is a fun one. It is the Royal Jet item. I am especially fond of this one because this is a Fiat-backed private jet that makes it so that you have a jet that is piloted by a world-class Toad pilot and filled with all the amenities one would expect from a private jet. It also never runs out of fuel. That is very cool. This is an exceptional item that I definitely think is worth investing in, especially if you are visiting this jump early in your chain and your jumper is more or less just a regular person who doesn't yet have any sort of freaky instant traversal abilities. Just a cool way of getting around the world. Yeah. The capstone item is the FLUDD itself. The Flash Liquidizer Ultra Dousing Device, or FLUDD, is a high-tech fire hose backpack with a built-in water tank. It's capable of storing a ton of water and launching it out for various purposes with 4 built-in nozzles. It's worth noting that this Fiat-backed one has the ability to travel, has the ability to use all 4 nozzles, not at once, but you do not have to switch between the secondary nozzle, which is by default the hover nozzle. You don't have to use the rocket You don't have to go and get the rocket boxes or the turbo boxes, just a very nice quality of life upgrade, especially if you want to try and take the Flood with you, but if you don't have a fiat backed, then the normal things that would apply to it would probably still apply in other worlds where there might not be turbo or rocket boxes for you to use unless you somehow make one yourself. So this is just a very nice way of getting the uncapped version of Flood and taking it with you along your chain, which can make you a very handy firefighter or cleaner or just someone who's better at getting around places very quickly. Now we are going to be going to the native set of items. The very first native item is the grass skirt. This is an anti-heat item, and that is very cool, just very fun for people who want to be able to cosplay as the people native to this land, and as people who also like the ability to get away from the heat. Very rad. The statue item is a statue of you, the specifics of which you can choose. If you want to be holding a sword in the middle of killing a monster, the sword will display just that. It's not any super special thing. It's just a statue. It's just a statue that hopefully makes you look cool. The very next item is the Shine Gate itself. With this item and with 120 shine sprites, which will naturally flock around it, you have the ability to make an area, the size of Isle Delfino, sunny and warm no matter where it's placed, and you can easily transport this to other locations. With this, just about anywhere can feel like home. This is a very fun item. It is worth noting that this is not the capstone item, as the capstone item is actually the Isle of Isle Delfino itself. And that is very fun if you want to import that into future settings. But with the Shine Gates, if you want to keep an area clean and sunny and warm, if you want to have effectively a limited version of climate control over an area, that is a thing you can do. The capstone item for the natives is Isle Delfino itself. This is a very fun item. This means that you will be able to take Isle Delfino along with you on your journey, and if you want to import it into future settings, you'll definitely be able to do that. It's worth noting that you can be the mayor of Isle Delfino. I don't know if that was how it worked in the game. I don't know if all of Isle Delfino had one mayor, but I'm assuming that that could also just translate to president or governor or prime minister. You could be the head of the government of Isle Delfino if that is what you want. And this is the true Isle Delfino. This is not Isle Delfino as it exists at the start of the game. This is how it exists at the end of the game, assuming you 100% the whole game and thus get every single shine sprite. So that is definitely worth keeping in mind as we move along to the invader items. Now in the invader items. In the invader items, we begin with a free magic bandana item, which is one that is exceptionally powerful. This bandana allows you to mimic the appearance of anyone you want, with there being one significant problem: you are a blue translucent version of them. That said, if you're in the darkness or from a distance, it is easy for people to trick you. It is easy for you to trick people in thinking you're the real deal. And even if they're smart enough to see through the deception, they still won't know your true identity. If you mix this with the copycat perk, you have a very solid impersonate anyone combo. Just a very good way to synergize the free perks for the origin and the free item for the origin. Fantastic job on PsychoAnon's part. Excellent work. The very next item, which is the first item that would cost you points, assuming that the invader is your origin, is the Yoshi egg. With this, you would be able to hatch Yoshi, assuming you are able to get the right fruit, judging from the bubble that floats over the Yoshi egg, which is the fruit that Yoshi wants and will also correspond with the color of Yoshi, which does matter in this particular game, as the color of Yoshi's juice is determined by the color of Yoshi's skin, if I remember correctly, and different skins produce platforms when they hit enemies that move in different ways. That said, Yoshi is even more athletic than Mario, and you would be able to ride Yoshi and benefit from Yoshi's immense hops. It's also worth noting that this particular version of Yoshi is not one that will melt in water, and if anything happens to him, he will respawn in his egg. This is probably the easiest way to get some version of Yoshi that will follow you on your chain, other than going to something like a Yoshi's Island jump. I'm fairly certain that one of those exists, although I'm not entirely sure off the top of my head. The next item, which would cost you 200 points, assuming the invader is your origin, is the Koopa Submarine. This is another very rad way to navigate the world. With this, you are able to go very quickly, both above water and underwater, and like the Royal Jet, this is fiat backed and does not need fuel. Unfortunately, you are going to have to pilot this one yourself, but thankfully there's a handy manual near the controls, so you should be able to figure out how to do it in no time at all, or teach one of your followers or companions how to do it, and they can help you out with doing that, assuming you either import the follower, which is free, or you import the companion, which would cost you some points. That said, the magic paintbrush is the capstone item, and this is a very solid item. With this, you have a infinite variety of special paint that can do a number of different things. It can be used to create monsters, which would spread even more paint. You can coat a building or a person in it to completely submerge them, and you can create portals to any area up to a certain range. It never says if that range increases, but if you have an uncapper that somehow works on items, you could presumably increase that range through steady training and through steady time. But either way, the ability to create portals that instantly teleport you to any area of up to the size of Isle Delfino is pretty rad, because Isle Delfino is not the smallest place in the world. Very fun. Now we are in the companion section. So here are the options for importing people, including a group import that would gain all the benefits of the island import option, and also a way to recruit anyone that you meet along this adventure. If this is an adventure where you decide that you want to recruit Princess Peach, you definitely can. You can go to Isle Delfino and you can bring her along with you along the rest of your chain, or you could get someone like Bowser Jr. or Bowser for whatever reason, or you get Mario himself. Lots of fun stuff to do here. And the final section is the drawback section. We are not going to spend a lot of time going through that, but we are going to just steadily look through it, so that way anyone who watches this video can take time to pause this and can try to figure out their optimal build. I personally think that what sort of origin and what sort of things I would do in this particular jump strongly depends on what I already have. I definitely think that also this is the end of the jump doc, and we are now going to go ahead and move towards the end of the video, but my personal build would strongly depend on what I already have coming into here. I definitely think that if I went to Super Mario 64, which is not by the same person, I checked in between filming different sections of this video, the reason that the origin, the plumber origin and the Taurus origin feel vaguely similar is that both of them are things for Mario, although in Super Mario Sunshine / Taurus case, it's also for like a couple of other characters as well, so you have like a handful of other things, but that's the reason both of them feel so similar, especially their first set of perks. That said, I think that what I would do in this particular jump depends on what I already have. If this is my first jump, I would probably stick with the tourist origin and I would take Mario stuff. But if this was something that I had done after going to Super Mario 64, I would definitely consider either taking the invader and still being a good guy, still being a good lad, or taking the native. I definitely think that there's a lot of fun stuff in the native. I like the business perk in the native, as well as the ability to become one of the unique creatures that inhabits Isle Delfino. That said, there is a lot of really fun stuff in the invader, especially the shape-shifting bandana, even with its limitations, and also the copycat perk, which is probably the best combination of free things that I think I've ever seen in a beginner level jump, because even if you were an entirely normal person, you could probably do just fine in this, as long as you do not try to do anything positively bizarre, like go to one of the liminal space areas, go to one of the special dimensions, or try to go over to Corona Mountain yourself. I definitely think that that is something that is worth keeping in mind as you try to do this. That said, this has been a very fun video, and I'm going to be trying to make some more of these brief videos that show off different jumps, especially jumps that I really like, because I highly recommend Super Mario 64. I cannot wait to see you again, and I hope that you guys are having a wonderful day today.